So tell me how I can help you.
I'm going to give you some background and then kind of give you two questions. So my wife and I have been married about 17 years. We have three kids. She grew up in a family where both of her parents are still married. She had a brother, and has a brother. Her dad was pretty detached, stayed busy with his work. Her brother had an autoimmune disorder, born with it. And unfortunately, he was close to death a few times as a kid. And so her dad really just stayed focused on work and not much else. And so she didn't get a whole lot of attention from him. Her mom was very angry and very high expectations and that kind of stuff. And so all that to say, my wife brought that into marriage with her. And she's a Enneagram 8, type A, high achiever, all that kind of stuff. And I'm Enneagram 9, real laid back and peacemaking and all that sort of thing. So just to give you some context on where we are as a couple. And so along with all that, she went through some sexual trauma as a teenager, and had some authority problems where people broke trust with her. And she's bringing all this into marriage. She's been to counseling a few times.
She went to counseling, you said, a couple of times?
Yeah, as a teenager.
Okay.
Yep.
That's a long time ago. Right?
And it is. And so all that to say, all these things that she brought in marriage are still there.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about what you said the other day. You posted a thing about, safe people are confrontable. And that's something that just really struck me, because it's hard to confront her about things. And when I say confront her, I mean, blame in the marriage is very one-sided. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with trust and, there are high emotional walls and this kind of stuff.
Has your marriage counseling addressed any of this?
Not well. And so the last counselor we saw started to kind of push on some things with her childhood and that kind of thing. And she pushed back against it. And so to give you context there as well, when we were going to marriage counseling, it was actually about a pornography problem that I had. And so I get that she was hesitant to really deal with it at that point. But even then, she kind of shut it down once it came up about her childhood and some of those things. So that, I'll be glad to fill in more details. That's kind of the general background. And so my question really is twofold.
Are you in marriage counseling now? Are you in marriage counseling now?
No, we're not now.
Okay.
If I had to say how our marriage was, it's average right now.
If you had to say what is this average?
Average, our marriage is.
Oh, okay. And you felt, and the main problem that you're struggling with is that you can't talk to her about problems?
We can't really connect, because I feel like when I say we can't connect, there's not a mutual understanding about really what's going on relationally. Does that make sense?
Well, it could. Give me an example.
If we have a fight about something and we try and talk it out and really get down to the meat of what the issue is beneath the problem, either she shuts down quickly and just gets angry and worked up. Her window of tolerance is very small, if you will. Or either it just all comes out toward me and it's just anger and it's my fault. And so there's not.
Does she understand? Does she understand, apart from those moments, that happens, that this is an issue? In other words, a lot of times you'll see somebody that, in the moment they get defensive, they get reactive, and and then later they calm down and they go, gosh, I see that sometimes I do that, I'm sorry. Or does she have any capacity to see that she might have a pattern like that?
There's not much of recognition. At least she doesn't tell me. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Conflicts don't ever truly get resolved because we don't circle back
Yeah.
around to it.
Okay.
And when I've tried to, it's not worked out.
And how do you try to?
Just whenever things are calm again, to try and find a time to come back and say, hey, I don't feel like we really
Okay.
talked this through and that sort of thing. And usually it just gets her anger back up again.
And what does she do?
What
does it sound like? What does she do when you try to bring up, gosh, we didn't really resolve this, and then boom, she says what?
It's either that her mind is working at a higher speed than mine, which honestly sometimes that's the case. She's just able to craft an argument to put the blame on me, or it is yelling and go sleep in another room, or you just don't get it, or those kind of things.
Yeah, that's pretty tough.
And to be honest with you, like, I've felt a little gaslit in the past around that, but the past few years I've kind of understood what's going on.
Yeah, because you get that kind of stuff sometimes. I mean, you said it's your relationship, you'd say, is kind of average, so there must be some good times as well, because that's not average, right?
Yeah.
There's when she's not activated or flooding, there's a lot of good times that you guys will have if you don't get around the conflict.
If it's on a scale of 1 to 10, a 3 or a 4, it may be okay. But if we get down to substantive stuff like 7 or 8 conflict stuff, it's not okay.
Okay. Well, the first thing I'm gonna say is this. I would really encourage you to get back in some marriage counseling, and this time with somebody that's got it's kind of what they call trauma informed.
Yeah.
And what that means is that in the context of the disconnects that you guys have, that the counselor has a lot of experience with people that are having somewhat kind of PTSD reactions. This may not be exactly PTSD, but what she does do is she does get flooded. That's kind of what you're describing. The getting angry and screaming and exiting and go sleep in the other room. That's not going to help her, and it's not going to help resolve the conflict. And I do think if it gets to that level, it really does help. It's almost essential to have a third party in the room, because the third party is able to metabolize almost in like a dialysis way, takes it out of the two of you and puts it through the machine and feeds it back to her, not from you, but from a third party, in a way that, can kind of calm her down, because she's not caught in that dyad with you. So I would do that. I'd really, really encourage that. The second thing I would
follow-up question.
Yeah, but let me say one more thing first.
Okay.
When you said you return to it, it doesn't go well. She gets, upset again. I would ask her, I wouldn't return to something, but in a time when it's going well, I would ask her, I just make a request and say, sometimes I feel things that I need for you to understand, and sometimes there's some things that I need from you.
Yeah.
And so I need to know from you, what is a way that I can point out something or tell you something that I need to go in a different way, that doesn't feel crummy to you, or doesn't hurt, or doesn't. Tell me how to do it, and engage her to solve that problem with you. I'm just looking for a way.
Yeah. So we've kind of had these conversations. I know this opens up another box, but her response has been, well, you should know by now. We've been married for 17 years. And,
Okay, well
and you know,
then sweetheart, this would be an example of I don't know and I need you to help me. So
yeah,
how can I do that? And I'd kind of press that a little bit. Now, if it blows up at that point, I mean, that's a pretty tough stiff arm response you're getting there. If that's what happens, you're just automatically, well, you know, I'm not going to tell you, you ought to know. Well, that is, I would just say, I understand that it's like that to you, that you, I believe you think I ought to know. I truly don't. I wouldn't react. I
yeah,
wouldn't get mad back or say, but I truly don't. And I'm really asking for your help. And I'd come at it
yeah.
from a vulnerable, I really need your help here to know how to do this. But like I said, if that's the kind of response you're getting, I really think you need a good, skilled third party in there with you.
Okay. I appreciate that. And the follow up to that is, I've been
Might
meeting with
not
a
have
pastor
time
from
for
our
too
church,
long
and
of a follow up because we're way over time. But go fast, and I'll try to do it.
I will. I've been meeting with a pastor from our church to kind of talk through some of this, and something that he said, and I want to get your take on, was that he thought that she might need to get into individual counseling before we do it as a couple. You think that's the case, or do you feel like, based on what you're hearing, that it might be better to do relational counseling first?
Well, I don't know enough about her and you guys to say a sequence, but I would tell you this, that generally speaking, one of the things I from what you described from her, I would be a big advocate for. She's gone through trauma, all this stuff. She's reactive. I would really want her to get some good individual counseling so she can heal, not just to get her so she can have a better marriage, but she's in a
Absolutely.
lot of distress to walk around with all this stuff. Okay, so
Absolutely.
yes, she needs to be an individual based on what things you've described, but it's also, and I don't know the sequence, but generally speaking, you also want to have somebody that's focusing on the couple, because many times when you have people going their own individual counseling, a lot of times they're talking about the other person, right? And then that can kind of insulate it and make it all about the other person's got the problem and I don't need to change. And so
I gotcha.
somewhere in this scenario, I want somebody working on holding this relationship together instead
Yeah.
of, that's kind of the danger sometimes when people are an individual and nobody's worrying about the marriage.
Mm.
Now,
Okay.
sometimes you'll get a really good individual counselor that really is for the marriage as well and is able to hold that in their heads at the same time and tell the client, you know, I want to help you. And I think, as you've described to me, you care about your marriage. So I'm also going to help you, you know, look towards your marriage and do the things that are going to help there. And that can, obviously that can work. I just always like to, if possible, you know, when she's an individual, she's the client who should receive the benefit from that. I want the marriage to receive some benefit from somewhere too, where it's the primary focus.
Yeah. That
Generally
makes sense.
speaking, I can't say exactly this, and your pastor may know way more, and and
Sure.
and
Sure.
and maybe for some reason he or she thinks that, you know, I don't think she can handle the, you know, getting in a room for the couple. I don't know, but normally that's what I like. Okay, gotta
Okay.
hustle,
I appreciate it.
and
Thanks.
maybe I'll see you. I'll bump into you at dinner tonight out there in Nashburg.
Oh, it'd be great. It'd be
Okay,
great.
thanks for your call. Oh, by the way, Ryan, talk to Albie. I want to make sure that you get. We want to gift you. I've got a webinar that maybe y'all watch together, even on. It's called the Marriage Equation, and it covers a lot of things that I think apply here to you guys.